Gospel writers don't have much time to show us the interaction between the apostles and Jesus, or between one apostle and another apostle. I'm going to read an account from Maria Valtorta's writings, which give us an idea about the dynamics between Jesus and the apostles and how they could distress him, but how John the apostle could give him consolation, and how deeply spiritual John the apostle was, and how we can see that he rightly deserves in the end that symbol of the eagle for his gospel, because he's soaring above everything else and goes higher than Matthew, Mark and Luke to give us an account of Jesus which is even more profound than the first three gospels, which leads skeptics unnecessarily and wrongly to suggest that John's gospel is not historical in the way that Matthew, Mark and Luke are historical. Completely false. John's gospel is extremely historical. In fact, there are reasons to say, which I won't go into now because it's quite a distraction, why John's gospel is more historically based than Matthew, Mark and Luke. Not that they're not, but that his gospel contains information about ancient Palestine, the Palestine before the Roman destruction of it in AD 70 and then 135 AD, and in the feasts that the Jews followed. John's much more focused in terms of Jewish ritual than the other evangelists. So it'd be absurd to think he'd go to all that trouble and not really be a Jew, but be some kind of philosophical Gnostic type, or that he was writing without any real knowledge of Palestine or Jewish customs. So, to commence the chapter 187 from the second volume of Maria Valtorta's 5-volume set, headed towards Jerusalem for the second Passover, from Tarichaea to Mount Tabor, given on the 12th of June 1945. Jesus dismisses the boats, saying, "I'm not coming back," and followed by his apostles, and across the area, which appeared to be very fertile also from the opposite shore, he turns his steps towards a mountain, which appears towards the southwest. Just to give a bit of context, we've just had the incident, which is reported in the Gospels, of Jesus casting out demons from 2 demoniacs, and then the demons have gone into the herd of pigs and gone over the cliff, and as you will recall, they all drown. So the residents of that area have asked Jesus to leave, and so he's left, and so this is now that next chapter where he's gone to. The apostles are walking in silence, communicating with one another only by casting glances. In fact, they're not enthusiastic for the journey across this beautiful but wild area, which is full of bog grass that gets entangled with their feet, of reeds that cause a drizzle of dew to fall on their heads from the edges of the leaves, of hazels that strike their faces with the hard canes of their dry fruit, of willow trees, the fragile branches of which hang down everywhere, tickling them, of treacherous patches of grass that seem to be growing on solid ground, whereas it conceals puddles of water into which their feet sink. They are, in fact, patches of foxtails and tares growing in tiny pools, and so thick as to conceal the element in which they've come up. Jesus, instead, seems to be extremely happy in the midst of all that green and the thousand hues of all the flowers which creep on the ground or stand upright or cling to other plants to climb up, forming thin festoons strewn with light convolvuli of a very delicate mallow pink, or forming delicate blue carpets for the thousand corollas of water myosotices, which open the perfect cups of white, pink, blue corollas among the large flat leaves of the water lilies. Jesus admires the tufts of the water reeds, as soft as silk and pearled with dew, and he bends joyfully to watch the delicate features of foxtails, which lay an emerald veil on the water. He stops ecstatically in front of the nests which the birds are building, flying happily to and fro, trilling, darting from branch to branch, working happily with their beaks full of wisps of hay, of down of reeds, of flocks of wool picked on hedges, which had torn it from the migrating sheep. He seems the happiest person in the world. Where is the world with its wickedness, falsehood, sorrows, snares? The world is beyond this green, flowery oasis, where everything scents, shines, smiles, sings. This is the earth created by the Father, and not desecrated by man, and man can be forgotten here.